If you think you know Kentucky, think again. Because what we're about to show you in this video are 11 ghost towns you have never even heard of. One of them set a world record loading over 12,000 tons of coal in just 9 hours. Another town that was so important during the Civil War, Union troops stationed patrol boats to protect it. So, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stick around till the end, because the #1 ghost town on this list has a story that will leave you speechless. Number 11. Lawton, Elliot County. Tucked into the rolling hills of Elliot County near the Carter County line, Lawton looks like any quiet patch of Kentucky countryside. But beneath the trees and dirt lies something most people would never expect. It all began in 1917, when the Lorton Limestone Company opened a massive quarry right here. The Kyrock Limestone Company took over later, building a vast underground mining operation that stretched across more than 2.6 million square feet of tunnels. This wasn't just a hole in the ground. It was a concrete frame network with rail lines, machinery, and men working around the clock. For decades, limestone was pulled from the earth and shipped off to build cities and highways. But after World War II, demand dropped. The mine shut down. And just like that, Lawton started slipping out of memory. But the story wasn't over. In the 1960s, someone realized the empty tunnels were perfect for something new. Mushrooms. Cool, dark, and humid, the underground spaces became one of the largest mushroom farms in the state. At its peak in 1971, the operation shipped over 2 million pounds of mushrooms a year and employed almost 90 people. Lawton was alive again, but not for long. By the mid-1980s, the mushroom business dried up, and once again, the tunnels fell silent. Then things got strange. In 2004, a double murder on the property shocked the small community. 2 years later, a group of investors announced a plan to turn the tunnels into a secure underground data center. It sounded ambitious, but the project collapsed and was later revealed as part of a fraudulent scheme. The doors closed for good, and the site was left to decay. Today, the entrance to the mine still stands. Massive concrete arches open into blackness, rusted rails run through the weeds, and deep inside, it's just empty space and echoes. The land is private and dangerous, but stories still swirl around it. Number 10. Scuffletown, Henderson County. About 12 miles northeast of Henderson, along a quiet bend in the Ohio River, sat a place once known as Scuffletown. Locals also called it Scuffletown Bottoms. It all began around 1800, when a white trader named Jonathan Thomas Scott, better known as Scott Fox, set up a tavern here with his Cherokee wife. Flatboat crews traveling downriver would stop in to drink, gamble, and more often than not, get into fights. That reputation for scuffles is what gave the place its name. But it wasn't just a watering hole. By 1817, Scuffletown had a school. Later came a church, a tobacco stemmery, and eventually a post office in 1868. The soil here was rich, and the river kept things moving. Tobacco and pecans became the backbone of the local economy. By the end of the 1800s, a Cherokee community had also settled nearby, adding to the culture and history of the area. During the Civil War, Union troops kept a patrol boat nearby to protect against Confederate raiders. In peacetime, Scuffletown grew thanks to its river landing and fertile bottomlands. It wasn't big, but it was lively. Then the river turned against it. A major flood in 1913 damaged the town badly. The post office shut down soon after, but the final blow came in 1937, when one of the worst floods in Kentucky history swallowed what was left of the village. Homes, orchards, and buildings were lost. Most residents moved to higher ground, and the town was never rebuilt. If you go there today, you won't find much. Cornfields stretch across the bottomlands. Levees cut through the silence. Almost nothing remains of the tavern that once buzzed with laughter, or the warehouses that kept the town afloat. Number 9. Kyrock, Edmonson County. Right along the banks of the Nolan River in Edmonson County, once stood a town that literally helped build roads around the world. The name was Kyrock, short for Kentucky Rock Asphalt, and few remember it today. It all started in 1918, when the Kentucky Rock Asphalt Company, which took over from the Wadsworth Stone and Pavement Company, built an entire town from scratch. This wasn't just a mining camp. Kairock had around 150 houses, 2 hotels, a church, a commissary, schools, and even its own baseball stadium. It was a full-fledged company town, designed for the workers who mined and processed natural rock asphalt pulled straight from the hills. For a while, Kairock was booming. In fact, it became the largest producer of natural rock asphalt in the entire world. Barges loaded with the material floated down the river to cities across the globe. The streets of Havana, the roads of Rio de Janeiro, and even the iconic Indianapolis Motor Speedway were paved with rock mined in this quiet corner of Kentucky. During the 1920s, Kairock was Edmonson County's biggest employer. It offered steady paychecks and a close-knit community built around a single purpose. But like many towns tied to a single industry, its future was always uncertain. As petroleum-based asphalt grew cheaper and easier to transport, Kairock's rock asphalt lost its edge. Transportation costs rose. Competition got tougher. In 1957, the plant shut down. 9 years later, the town was officially unincorporated. Families moved away, businesses closed, and the buildings were left to fade into the trees. Today, if you walk near Nolin Lake, you can still find traces of what was once there. A tall concrete water tower rises above the trees. The stone piers of an old footbridge sit quietly near the river. And scattered across the forest floor are the cracked foundations of homes that once belonged to miners, shopkeepers, and children who played on dusty ball fields. Number 8. Ford's Ferry, Kittenden County. Along the edge of the Ohio River in Kittenden County, near where Crooked Creek flows in, there once stood a town built on both crime and commerce. This was Ford's Ferry, a place where travelers once crossed the river and sometimes didn't make it to the other side. In the early 1800s, a man named James Ford ran a ferry service here. On the surface, he was a respected businessman. But behind the scenes, he led a gang that robbed and sometimes killed those who passed through. They called him the River Pirate, and for good reason. He used his ferry not just to transport people, but to trap them. After Ford was killed in 1833, the crime faded, but the ferry kept running. The crossing became a legitimate stop along the river, and a small town slowly grew around it. By the mid-1800s, Ford's Ferry had 4 stores, 2 hotels, and around 75 residents. The Bell City House Hotel welcomed travelers. Freight wagons passed through daily, and the riverfront buzzed with activity. Ford's Ferry became one of the most reliable river crossings in the region. It connected communities, supported trade, and gave the town a reason to thrive. But that didn't last forever. As new roads were built and ferries opened in nearby locations like Cave in Rock, the importance of Ford's Ferry began to fade. Fewer travelers came. Businesses closed. Then came the floods. The worst was in 1937. The Ohio River rose higher than it had in decades, swallowing homes, barns, and everything in its path. Whatever was left of the town didn't stand a chance. After that, no one rebuilt. Today, if you drive down Ford's Ferry Road, you'll see open fields and dense woods. The riverbank is still there, but the landing is gone. No signs remain of the old store, the ferry, or the Bell City House Hotel. Just quiet water and wind through the trees. Number 7. Elcatawa, Breathtit County. Deep in the hills of Breathtit County, not far from the North Fork of the Kentucky River, sits a place that was once full of noise, movement, and promise. That place is Elcatawa, and while it's barely more than a name on a map today, it once played a key role in Kentucky's timber and coal boom. The story begins in the late 1800s. This area had what industries needed most: timber in the hills and coal in the ground. But getting it out was nearly impossible without a railroad. That changed in 1890, when the Lexington and Eastern Railroad extended its line through the Red River Valley and into Elcatawa. Almost overnight, the town came to life. A post office opened in 1891. A rail depot soon followed. Schools and general stores were built. Families moved in. Work was steady, and the town grew. Train cars loaded with lumber and coal rolled out of Elcatawa daily, feeding the demands of a fast-growing country. For a while, it was one of the liveliest stops along the L&E line. But the boom didn't last. By the 1920s, the forests had been stripped bare. The easy-to-reach coal seams were tapped out. With nothing left to ship, the railroad reduced its service. The depot closed. Jobs vanished. One by one, families packed up and left. Even the post office eventually shut down. Nature began creeping back in. Today, Elcatawa is quiet. You can still walk the old railbed, but it's overgrown with vines and brush. Foundations of buildings are hidden beneath layers of soil and leaves. The school, the stores, the depot, all gone. What remains is a ghost of a town that once fed the fire of progress. And if you stand there long enough, surrounded by trees and silence, you can almost hear the distant whistle of a train that no longer comes. While Elcatawa slowly faded back into the forest, the next town didn't just vanish. It came back to life. But before we head there, if you're still watching, take a second to tap that like button. It helps more people discover these forgotten places. Now let's head south to McCreary County, where Barthol still stands and still tells its story. Number 6. Barthol, McCreary County. Tucked deep in the Appalachian foothills of McCreary County sits Barthol, one of Kentucky's most iconic coal towns. Unlike many ghost towns that have been completely erased, Barthol still stands, and it has stories to tell. It all started in 1902. The Stearns Coal and Lumber Company needed a base for its mining operations, and this patch of rugged land was perfect. Barthol became the first of 18 coal camps built by the company. A year later, in 1903, the first load of coal left the mine on the newly constructed Kentucky and Tennessee Railroad. The town quickly grew. A second mine opened. Families moved in. Even during the Great Depression, when many towns were shutting down, Barthol was still shipping coal at full speed. In January 1930 alone, it sent out more than 100,000 tons. During World War II, the demand for coal surged again, and the company had to lay down a second railway line just to keep up. But like so many mining towns, Barthol's success came with risk. In 1943, a fire tore through the coal tipple at mine number 1. It was never rebuilt. Production shifted to mine number 2, and over time, even that became unsustainable. By 1952, the company started dismantling the camp, and by 1961, the last residents were gone. For a while, Barthol sat abandoned. Then, in 1984, the Koger family stepped in and brought the town back to life. Not as a mining camp, but as a living piece of history. Today, you can visit Barthol and see what life looked like in a coal town from a century ago. The original company store has been restored, so have several cabins, the schoolhouse, and even some of the rail cars. Around 15 of the old miners' homes are now available for overnight stays. You can walk past the rusting mine entrances, stand beneath the rebuilt tipple, and feel what it was like to live and work in a place powered by coal and grit. Number 5. Paradise, Muhlenberg County. On the banks of the Green River in Muhlenberg County once stood a town called Paradise. Today, it's remembered not for what remains, but for what was taken away. Coal was discovered in the area in the 1820s. A post office opened in 1852. Over time, Paradise became a modest but thriving river port. Barges loaded with coal and timber stopped here. Families lived simple lives, connected to the river and the land. In the late 1950s, everything changed. The Tennessee Valley Authority began building a massive coal-fired power plant right next to the town. It brought jobs, but also thick smoke and coal dust. Pollution filled the air. Health concerns grew. By 1967, the TVA offered to buy out the entire town. Most residents accepted. Their homes were torn down. Streets were cleared. Paradise was gone. Today, the power plant still stands along the river. The only physical reminder of the town is a cemetery on a nearby hill. What used to be homes, schools, and gardens is now concrete, fences, and machinery. Paradise is no longer on the map, but it lives on in stories, memories, and a song that made sure the world would never forget it. Number 4. Creelsboro, Russell County. Creelsboro sits on a bend of the Cumberland River in Russell County. At its peak, it was the busiest river port between Nashville and Burnside. In the 1800s, steamboats arrived almost daily. Farmers brought goods from miles around. The town had a bank, a school, several stores, and an inn for travelers. Its location near the Rockhouse Natural Arch also made it a popular stop for early tourists. But times changed. When highways replaced riverboats in the 1930s, Creelsboro was left behind. Businesses closed. Families moved away. Today, a few old buildings and crumbling foundations still stand near the river. The town is quiet now, visited mostly by anglers and hikers. Creelsboro once connected people and places. Now, it's a peaceful reminder of how quickly progress can pass a place by. Number 3. Blue Heron, McCreary County. Blue Heron, also known as Mine 18, sits along the Big South Fork River in McCreary County. It was built in 1937 by the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company as a mining camp. The community had rows of homes, a depot, a company store, a school, and a church. It served one purpose: to keep the mines running. For 25 years, it did just that. But by 1962, coal prices had dropped and the mines were no longer profitable. The company shut down operations. Families moved out. Buildings were left to rot. Years later, the National Park Service brought the site back, not as a town, but as a museum. Steel frames were installed to mark where buildings once stood. Exhibits were added with photos, voices, and stories from former residents. Today, Blue Heron feels frozen in time. You can walk through the outlines of homes and hear the echoes of a town that worked hard and disappeared quietly. Number 2. Mill Springs, Milltown, Wayne County. On the banks of the Cumberland River in Wayne County lies Mill Springs, once the heart of a small, thriving community built around one powerful idea: water can do the work. In 1817, settlers built a water-powered grist mill beside the spring. It was rebuilt twice, and the version still standing today dates back to 1877. By 1907, a massive 40-foot overshot wheel was added. The mill ground corn and wheat for nearby farmers and became the center of daily life. Surrounding the mill, a small town took shape. There were homes, a blacksmith shop, a general store, and plenty of families who relied on the steady turning of that wheel. But time moved on. New technology made old methods obsolete. Steam engines, diesel power, and paved roads changed how people worked and traveled. Little by little, the community faded. The shops closed, the houses emptied, the town disappeared. Only the mill survived. In 1976, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers restored it. Today, visitors can still tour the mill on weekends. You can hear the water rush, feel the hum of the wooden gears, and watch corn being ground just like it was in the 1800s. The rest of the town is gone. But when you stand beside that wheel, surrounded by quiet trees and the sound of falling water, it feels like time never left. Number 1. Lynch, Harlan County. Deep in a narrow valley near the Virginia border lies Lynch, a town built from coal, steel, and ambition. Located in Harlan County, Lynch was once a powerhouse of American industry. In 1917, the U.S. Coal and Coke Company, a subsidiary of U.S. Steel, bought 19,000 acres and began building a company town from scratch. By the early 1920s, Lynch had become the largest coal camp in the world. Nearly 10,000 people lived here, speaking dozens of languages and working under one massive operation. The town had about 1,000 buildings, Schools, churches, a hospital, a hotel, a theatre, and a commissary, many built from local sandstone. The coal tipple here could load 15,000 tons a day, and in 1923, workers set a world record by loading over 12,000 tons in just 9 hours. Lynch was a model of industrial planning. Its streets were paved. Its mines were fully electrified. Families had running water, sewage systems, and access to healthcare. For a coal camp, life here was unusually modern. But it came at a cost. US Steel controlled everything: homes, stores, wages, and even union activity. After World War II, demand for coal started falling. Machines replaced jobs. In the 1950s, US Steel began selling homes and slowly pulling out. By the 1960s, many public buildings were demolished, and Lynch became a small city of its own. The town never recovered. From a peak of 10,000 people, fewer than 700 remain. Today, Lynch feels frozen in time. Crumbling schools and sandstone homes still sit on the hillside. One of the biggest draws is Portal 31, a restored mine that gives visitors a look at what life was like underground. Walking these quiet streets, you can almost hear the clang of picks, the rumble of coal carts, and the many voices that once filled this multicultural mountain town.